All right, so today we're going to take a look at the Skydio 2 controller. Wait, that's the Parrot controller. Hang on one second. Stick around. Guys, what's up? Welcome back. Today's episode is going to be all about the Skydio 2 controller. I got a chance to do some testing with it today, fly it. I flew it in a couple of different locations, and I'm going to give you my thoughts and opinions on it and whether or not this actually changes how you fly with the Skydio at all. And it sort of does. I'll elaborate more on that here in a moment. So when you first get your Skydio controller, you will have two cables. This is the Lightning cable, and then you'll also get this. This is a USB-C cable. In order to pair your Skydio 2 to your drone, it's really simple. All you need to do is plug the USB-C cable into the drone, with the drone on obviously, and then also plug it into the Skydio controller. You don't need your phone attached to do this. The Skydio controller lights will be blinking blue. When they go solid, your drone is now bound to the controller. So pretty super simple process. Now it is also recommended that you turn your phone's Wi-Fi off so your phone doesn't try to connect to the Skydio 2. That was some of the issues I had when I first started binding it, was that the phone was trying to connect to the drone's Wi-Fi. So just something that you'll need to pay attention to. Now this controller basically is the Parrot controller. So again, it probably looks very familiar, and that's because it really is very familiar. Now the Parrot controller has the USB port on the bottom, while the Skydio controller does not. However, it just looks like they sort of blocked it off for whatever reason. So you only have access to the USB-C on here. But other than that, the ergonomics and everything, the way it looks and feels is exactly the same. They just slapped a Skydio logo on it. But you can't use the Parrot controller with the Skydio 2. I've already tried. The software, the firmware that's actually on the controller is different. So it's not going to allow it to bind to the Skydio. So don't waste your time trying because it won't work. Okay, so I know one of the questions that will come up in this video is that you want to see a range test. Currently, as of today, can't really do a range test. And the reason being is there's no telemetry on the readout on the application. I didn't know how fast the drone was going. I don't know how far the drone was going. And I don't know how high the drone was going. I think this is a huge oversight that should have been caught while it was in beta, or these pre-release guys should have said something about that, and Skydio should have fixed that before it even made it into production hands. That's just my opinion on that. Again, I think that you need that data there, especially if it flies. You need to know where it's at, how far it is, how high it is. Those are all important things. Whether it's just tracking you or flying itself, we're still responsible for anything this thing does. So how was it flying with the controller? Well, it was incredibly fun. This drone is just amazing when it comes to avoiding obstacles. It really does make you feel like a superhero because you can fly around trees that you normally would never even attempt to do and fly through things with so much more confidence. Now that confidence is sort of a false confidence because you aren't really the one flying the drone. And if I had to say, I was probably piloting maybe about 70% of the time, and the rest of the time, the drone was making decisions. And I'm not gonna lie, this drone makes better life decisions than I do. Now, I did take it to Tampa to try to fly, out there, and it did decent. However, just like the Parrot I was getting a lot of breakup on the controller, the video downlink, I should say. Possibly wireless interference. I mean, it was in the city area, so that's always possibilities. But it was pretty cool. I went to the skate park and I was able to track some of the riders. I asked them if, they mind I was filming, and they were like, yeah, we don't care. They loved it. So I was able to track them, and it was really cool to see some of the movements you were able to get with this. It was a little bit smoother with me in control versus letting the drone do the controlling. Then I went back to the park, Cruise Lake Park, where I was at with Mike yesterday, and I basically just let it rip around the trees. Now, I know some of you will say, well, you probably were getting image breakup because you were behind some of the trees. And yeah, that's really true. I'm putting this in the most extreme situation so you can have an understanding of what you can expect. Now, I didn't take it out incredibly far because again, I don't know how far this is going. I don't know how high it's going. and heaven forbid a helicopter or anything sprung up on me, I just don't want that liability. Surely you can understand this. Now, if I did have another pilot with me, I can send their drone out with me and we could sort of get a good idea of how far this thing can go. But I think we need to wait until we have that data displaying on the controller. But I was getting a fair amount of breakup. And again, this is the controller trying to penetrate through those trees. You can see on the screen recording at several points where you would just get very stuttery video. But the good thing is, even though I really couldn't make out my landing point, I didn't have a doubt that the Skydio was going to come right back to me. Now, there was also a point where the drone disconnected from the controller and it proceeded to go into another RTH, and it did just fine, no issues, and I was able to reconnect, and it was just sort of hovering there, paused until I was able to give the sticks input. But I probably flew for about 20 to 30 minutes, and I would say it was a very, very fun experience. Another nice thing is the fact that you can control the yaw and the pitch at the same time. And I was able to control the pitch of the gimbal with ease, and it goes just about 90 degrees straight up. Not quite 90, but it's enough to give you a good view of the sky. It's actually pretty decent. The dynamic range on this was actually impressive. One thing I want to note though, every time I connected it back to the controller, I had to keep checking my frame rate because it would default to 30 frames per second. And the auto recording, even though I set it to manual, it defaulted back to the auto record. There's also one other thing that sort of like bothers me, and it just could be a small change in the app, is when you tap on the map, in order to go back to the live view, you have to tap on the small icon of the map instead of just tapping on the live view. On a DJI controller, you tap on the map down at the bottom, and then it goes to the live view minimized. And then if you tap on the live view minimized, it goes to live view maximized. So it's just a small thing that probably needs to be changed in the software, but just something that I noticed with the controller. But this definitely does enhance the experience. But as far as range and transmission goes, you're basically going to get what you can expect out of the Paradinafi with this, give or take. Now again, we'll have to test it a little bit more because again, I was in a dense wooded area, which probably isn't the best place to test it, but it will give you the most extreme situation of what could happen with this controller. But it is a lot of fun to fly with this because you can just really push it through things. But again, the drone is still going to make the better decisions for you. I was trying to come up with some analogy of how I can compare flying the Skydio. And honestly, the only analogy I could find was something incredibly inappropriate. It's like the equivalent of paying for a lap dance and having this beautiful girl, dance for you, but you paid her. That's the only reason why she's dancing for you. Same thing. The only reason why you're flying this well is because the obstacle avoidance is so damn good. That was probably a really offensive analogy. I apologize to anybody, but not really. I don't. I'm just a guy. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it helps with your decision making. Honestly, in the end of the day, you're just going to have to make your own decision whether or not this drone is right for you. No reviewer or anybody's going to be able to persuade you. Again, I bought this myself, so far I'm pretty happy with it, but there is a bit of a learning curve with the Skydio versus, let's say, a DJI product. And that's unfortunately the inevitable truth. And yeah, anyways, really impressed with how it avoided obstacles today. And it was sort of an overcasty day, so I think it did well, and it didn't even let that tin roof bother it. So we'll have to see. I'm going to try to get this thing to fly indoors. I have some ideas for that, but we'll see how that pans out. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed, definitely drop this video a like. And if you haven't already, yeah, hit that subscribe button because that's always fun as well. And I look forward to reading all of your comments. Stay original. We'll see you next time.